Now, how does that affect us? Because everything that we talked about the last couple of days, we talked about how the body is holding on to stagnant information. That stagnant information is right here in the body. This is what it looks like when I look at you in your multidimensional body. You guys have blockages, cords, contracts, all of these things that are stagnating the energetic body. And so life force that comes into the crown chakra, into the physical body, gets stuck. It doesn't have the flow that it requires in order to move through the body. The human body is made up of a network of information, networks of chi life force that is flowing through your body. And so anytime that we reject the awareness of that life force, anytime that we block or create blockages of that life force energy through the body, this is where we end up having blockages. Okay, so for example, this big black circle right here is a blockage. Okay, when the energy is stuck and our chakras are out of alignment, let's say we are in a state of anxiety and fear, it's over here in this part of the body. This area becomes enlarged. The first three chakras, they come out of balance. So they are magnified because that's where the attention is. The attention is coming, or the way that we're looking at the world, our vision is being fed by the information in the lower chakras, like for example here. So the sacral chakra becomes wounded over repetitive programming, repetitive experiences that make it feel that it's unworthy, that it's in toxic relationships, doesn't know how to create a balance within giving and receiving of its own life force with family, friends, colleagues. And so we end up getting stuck with these programs, and that's how we look at the world. We look at the world from these areas. And so what happens is that this becomes, not only does it define the vibrational frequency of the body, but you become a match to anything that is, you know, magnified in your energetic space. So when we talk about healing the body, every single one of these chakras, and then you come over here, every single one of these chakras that you see here in this image are actually this organization of this infinite consciousness that comes into the body and organizes itself within the chakra system. Okay? The chakra system right here, every single one of these chakras is owning and manages these particular frequencies. So lower vibrational frequencies, when they are out of balance of a root chakra, for example, it's going to be down here in grief, in shame, in guilt. And all of those things are interconnected with the emotions that we are feeling as part of what builds our vision, what builds what we're seeing, how we're perceiving the world. And so this is how we get stuck in these programs. We are constantly looking at the world from these places here. Our only vision, our view becomes myopic. And so we only look at things through shame. We only look at things through guilt. We attract experiences that cause shame and guilt within us. This is literally all the information that you have within the chakras, and whichever one of these chakras are magnified by your repetitive patterns of behavior, repetitive programming, is what's going to be enlarged and solidifying your vibrational frequency. And you create one whole vibrational frequency that is a result of all of this combined information. So when you and I are doing a session, as in DNA reprogramming, we are identifying what your highest vibrational frequency is. That highest vibrational frequency is what your whole organism needs in order to rebalance any imbalances of perception in the body. Okay, so why we use the crown chakra? Because the crown chakra is the entryway to the higher dimensions of the body, of the creative life force. This is like the prism that utilizes this infinite life force that comes through filters and projects out into creation the experiences based on the information that you have here within the body. So if you are constantly repeating repetitive patterns of behavior, you're enforcing this imbalanced perception at all times. As you know, the chakras, they function like routers. They are receiving and putting out energy. So this is basically creating this constant flow of giving and receiving in this very specific signature. And so we get stuck. And then we wonder, you know, why is it that I'm always feeling this same way? All of these emotions are always triggering me in this same way. And it's because we continue to look at the world from these places. So for example, let's take a look at the root chakra grounding, you know, all of these aspects of the reproductive system, the sexual body, our basic needs, our feeling safe. And so when we don't feel safe, when it's out of balance, when we feel like we can't be grounded or fully in the body, when the body becomes difficult to inhibit, then we leave the body. And literally, what a person looks like when they leave their body, when they can't sustain themselves in the body because it feels too toxic, because a lot of you are empathic, and so the emotions that you feel are magnified because this is where you're at. Then you end up out here. And so the body, because there is no conscious awareness in the whole organism, you become a host to all kinds of things, entities, attachments that are in a vibrational match to the information that's residing within these layers. What makes up those layers? The layers of the body are a projection of the information that you're holding here in each one of these chakras. The root chakra is connected to this physical layer, the sacral connected to the next layer out, and you have 7 layers outside of the body emitting from the inside out. Each one of those layers is communicating with another aspects of yourself. And so what you end up looking like, really your entire body ends up looking like this huge network of information. You are at the center of that. Whatever part of you is present, fully aware in this moment, is the part that has the ability to govern and shift the experiences that it's going to have. So keep that in mind. So when we're not present in the moment, we become a host to all kinds of things that are lingering, that are interconnected to us on different planes of dimensional planes based on the frequency. So when we come into fear, we can be open for some kind of entity, some aspect of ourselves that's lower. So it becomes magnified. It finds friends within the state of the subtle energy body and these energetic bodies. So that's what attachments end up being. And so the crystalline body, when we talk about the crystalline body and we talk about the body, the human structure, it's crystalline because crystals, we know, record information. They are meant for recording information. So the body is very much like a crystal. It has the ability to store incredible amounts of information in the holographic system of our DNA. Okay. Our entire human body is holographic. So it's storing all this information within it. And let me allow people to come in. Hold on. It's storing all the information in this multidimensional body. And so this is how we get entangled in repetitive programs, guys. So why we need to continue working on deprogramming and healing and clearing all of these imbalances is to begin to rebalance this organism into a zero state, what I call the zero state, a neutral point. That enables the body to rebalance. Let me show you from this out of balance body into now a more organized and in control of your perception. Chakras and the information that's within the chakras are what feed your experiences and your perception. This is the unconditional, the subconscious mind is fed by all the information that's here. And the information that's here is made up of everything that you have experienced as infinite consciousness. Okay? So we are much more the non-physical. We are much more this source than we are physical. When the body is populated by the soul, it connects to two separate networks. It connects to the chakra system, and the chakra system is populated by the information of all the experiences you've had based on vibrational frequency. And it connects to your DNA, the ancestral lineage, which is a repetitive patterns, traumas, experiences, human experiences that are repeating and coming down your ancestral lineage. So everything that your mother experienced that's traumatic, it's coming down, and it's populating your perception, okay, through your DNA, through this organism that communicates with the chakra router system and outputs these programs. So we very much end up being slaves to these repetitive cyclical patterns of behavior, of trauma, of fears. So what we want to do is we want to work with that information, okay? So all these things that build up our perception come down historically, down our lineage, our ancestors. We are basically reliving those same experiences. Let's say our mother has a lot of trauma. She felt completely unloved throughout her life, completely ignored. She was taught that the divine feminine is shameful, or that the masculine has more power, and that when we don't come into our power, we have to be very submissive, or we have to push down our opinions and what we want in life. So let's say you come in here, and whether you're a man or a woman, you're going to be playing out those same thought forms. You're going to be attracting a partner that's going to reinforce this program. So it's very interesting. This is why in meditation, I ask you guys to look at the emotions that you guys are having in that moment, in this very moment today, and become aware of what are the repetitive. We always seem to have a repetitive emotion that comes up, whether it's we're not feeling good enough, we're not worthy, something we feel that we know is like, I'm always feeling this way, I'm always stuck in these emotions. And the purpose of this healing is to get that emotion and go back to the root, because when you do, you begin to identify how that program began, how you started to develop this program that is then being fed into your system. Now, it goes even deeper, my loves, because on top of us playing out these programs, these emotions are vibrational frequency. So what happens when we are always in fear? The body is sustaining that continuous frequency of fear. And so over time, those blockages that were in the multidimensional body become a frequency that's no longer fluid. It has slowed down, it has become heavy, and now it embodies into the physical like a blockage, in the non-physical, and in the physical like pain or like illness. And the illness will usually develop in the part of the body that is holding on to that information. So for example, if you're in a state of fear, constant state of fear, your entire immune system crashes because it's interconnected. Your root chakra is interconnected with all of this very part of the body that's interconnected with the spine that goes up into the endocrine system, and it affects the entire system. And so what we end up being is completely, the body starts falling apart. And we, on the non-physical, we end up creating holes, energetic holes in the body in which we're open to other entities and attachment. This is how the body becomes unaware of itself. Okay, so when I talk about parasitic consciousness, when I talk about other people feeding off your life force, of course that happens because we're not aware of our bodies. We're not in charge of what's happening. So this is how the body ends up, in a sense, almost hijacked by that information, by someone else's awareness or use of our life force. So GPAC is really important in creating a very strong foundation for awareness. Grounding, you ground yourself down to the center of the earth. Protection, you're aware of your multidimensional body. That means you're aware of your whole organism, what's happening inside and what's happening outside. That not outside externally, but in your energetic field. You are aware of your chakra system. We have the ability of accessing the crystalline layers of the body because every single one of these chakras projects in creating a layer of this multidimensional plane that we are, this whole organism. This is one layer here. Imagine 7 of those spheres around you. Each one is being populated by information that you are feeding into it and that you're receiving, you're allowing to come into your space. So we want to clear that. So imagine every single one of these dots is actually a layer. It's an overlay that surrounds your body. That's how huge of an organism you are. And in this dimensional plane, we go all the way up to the 13th chakra. Okay, we go up to the 13th chakra, and then it goes up into the even higher levels. But our source and our spirit is actually the gateway that lives in these upper chakras. So we want to activate the access to that. Underneath the spirit is the access to the Akashic records, and to, if you're doing astral traveling, it's the Akashic records and then astral travel, layers of astral information. So the astral levels are very much interlinked with the physical plane. That's why it's very important that when you do astral traveling, astral practice, you become aware, you start training your consciousness, and you become aware, you basically bleed in your awareness from your everyday life. So the more you become aware in this present time, you're becoming aware in those astral levels. It's completely important. So to activate this crystalline body, our awareness has to be of this physical body. We have to stop externalizing the experience. So you're in a constant state of reaction to things that happen around you. You're in constant cause and effect. You're down here because you're in survival mode. Anytime that you are in a reactionary state, you're just responding from the programs and the repetitive patterns of behaviors and beliefs that you have within this lower chakra system. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is how we are created, my loves, and we're heavily programmed. Our entire society is designed to support that kind of behavior. We watch it in movies. We've seen it go down our family lineages for centuries. So what do we know? How do we know what's real? How do we know what's the proper way of behaving? We don't have very many examples of that in our society. So what we want to try to do is find ourselves truly who you are as an individual organism beyond all of this programming that you've embodied through your historical lineage, through what's residing in your DNA, through the repetitive patterns that you've picked up and learned from the age of birth to the age of 7, that you're playing out. What you're going to find, and when I've done this, is that I recognize that all of my belief systems, they weren't even mine. I didn't even agree with half the things that I was doing in my life. I didn't agree with the way I behaved, the way I spoke, the way I responded to things. And I tried to question, where on earth did I get that belief system? And so you begin to question your parents. Where did my parents get it from? And they are a product of their parents. So on and so forth. It goes down all the way your ancestral lineage. And if you really have some, for extra credit, if you guys want to go deeper, I invite you to go back to the origins of all those beliefs, because that's when the matrix started to crash for me. I started to realize that a lot of these programs were implemented in our society to create incredible amounts of compartmentalized belief systems and control. Control of our emotions, control of how we perceive ourselves and our power, control of how we even engage and create relationships in order to keep it in a cookie cutter mold of having marriages, children, education, and having a very cookie cutter life that we all know, that formula. There's no self-fulfillment. There's no realization in that formula, right? So the call now is to become aware of these programs and how they embody and get stuck in the body so that we can start to work with them. The simple question of asking yourself of the repetitive emotion that you feel just in the past 24 hours, in the past week, is the gateway to getting to all this information. Because your body is a constant living record, like a crystal, of this infinite information. So a lot of us, we don't even know how to recognize that emotion. Do you know what you're feeling right now? So for example, if you feel any anxiety in your stomach, for example, notice where that anxiety is, what caused that anxiety, and go down that road, go back to that original point where it began. You begin to understand the things that cause you, that trigger these emotions. And that is the key. When you're in meditation and doing this healing work, when you start working with that trigger, you can begin to educate yourself because now you're disconnected. You don't have to relive that trigger over and over again. You're just observing it. You're just looking at it. When you observe it from outside, you become aware that you're just responding. So my question to you when you get to that point is, where did I learn to respond that way? And what is it that I need in order to not feel that I have to respond that way? Okay, you're going to learn a lot about yourself because you're going to be able to not just identify where the origin of that behavior came from, but you are dismantling all this information that you're holding on to in your body. So the poor solar plexus, let's take the example of the anxiety. The poor solar plexus is constantly reliving that pattern of anxiety, and it's affecting the body. It's affecting our immune system, our digestive system. A lot of us end up having blockages in our digestive system because we are not accepting and allowing things that we are not aware of. They become stagnant. We can't process them. So sometimes we end up having to protect ourselves. And so the entire body starts to do habits that are self-preserving. They preserve the ego, they preserve that identity that we've created throughout our life. So it's a process that it takes nurturing and it takes patience, guys, because we're walking into the unknown. When you go into the unknown, you're going to be met with parts of you that maybe you didn't recognize, maybe you don't like to see, maybe you don't want to acknowledge. So I need you to be there for yourself in this process. And when these parts come up, these painful parts come up, you can support. How do we support? One of the most intoxicating things chemically for the human body is to rush the serotonin, rush the chemicals in the body, okay? And we're addicts to our emotions. That's the first problem. And as I mentioned to you before, we're told it's okay. There's a difference between shaming you for your emotion that you're feeling, okay? Because what our society has said is men are not allowed to feel sad. Men are not allowed to express their emotions, for example. And women, on the other hand, they're said, oh, be strong, you know, you should do this. So we have all this conflicting information about how to deal with our emotions. The proper way of dealing with the emotion is to understand that it's a temporary tool. And it's not temporary because we say it is. It's temporary because it literally will dissolve from your body when you feel it. So yesterday, we did the practice of embodying that emotion. And after watching it for a few minutes, you notice that it begins to dissolve from the body. It doesn't stay in the body. It only stays in the body if we resist feeling it, acknowledging it, or we're afraid of it. Okay, those three things. So we're afraid of it, we're resisting it, or we're holding on to it. And what you'll realize is that this is the hump that'll be the hardest for us, a lot of us, to get over. It's no longer feeding into the addictive need of having to feel that emotion all the time. It's become safe. It's become our identity. It's protecting us. We believe it's protecting us. So we have to be able to support ourselves that when we're done feeling that emotion, you're going to be okay. And this is where you begin to apply the understanding of how you own your space. What does it mean when you own your space? When you own your space, let's say you put your protective field around you, you're tapping into your awareness, your five senses, and everything inside of this bubble, it belongs to you. But everything outside of that bubble, that's someone else's. And so when you engage with things that happen outside of you, you're literally creating an energetic cord, an energetic connection to those things. And so what's the law of the universe? When we connect to something, we're immediately exchanging consciousness, exchanging information, exchanging energy. There's always an exchange when two things come together like that. So you have to choose. Do you want to engage with what's happening around you? Let's define engagement, okay? Let's say you see a news flash. Half of New York is burning down. Oh my God, you see that. What happens immediately? Adrenaline starts rushing to your body. You get into anxiety mode. You go into survival mode. That's the part of your body that wants to respond automatically based on its known experiences. Now we know that that fire is not here immediately. It's not right next to you. So what is the purpose of rushing through those emotions in that moment? What's the purpose of that? We have to be aware of how we are continuously moving through these emotions and understand what's needed, what's the needed contribution, and where we don't have to, where we can preserve our energy and our life force. So this is where our energetic body is incredibly important, our protection. What I have you do is I have you imagine a bubble around you, and it can be made out of anything that's completely impenetrable. And the reason why I want you to imagine that is because I want you to have this bubble around you that this is what you own. You're responsible for what's here. So you're also responsible for choosing what you engage with that's happening outside. The body comes into optimum health when it's not constantly exchanging these kinds of chemical unnecessary releases. Because think of the body starts getting really tired, really drained if it's constantly reacting to all the things that are happening. Right now in our world, there's a lot of things that we could react to, but where is the wisdom? That's also why they are designed. They're designed to create that. It doesn't mean that we are insensitive to the suffering of others, but if we begin to work within us and hold space, we're going to be able to discern how to take right action and create changes, not only in ourselves, in our family, but our community. This is the thing, and it's our responsibility individually to start embodying that awareness. Okay, very good, guys. So I'm going to stop the sharing. Do you guys have any questions about that part? For those of you that are on my workshop, let's get started. Questions? Okay, if anybody's muted, Sonia, go ahead.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hello. Are we gonna get a copy of this this video? I came in a little late because I thought the meeting was earlier, so I thought it canceled. so I'm missed some of it.
No
Or
problem.
maybe I wasn't able to get in. I don't know, but are we having access to like the copy of this session?
Yes. So what I did was I created on my website a place for you to go to see all the previous recordings. There's also going to be some prompted exercises that you guys can do, and I'm going to be adding your emails to that. So when you get an invitation to join the challenge through the email, info@bayareameditation.com, just click yes and you'll have access to the archive. So all of this is pre-recorded, not pre-recorded, it's recorded so that you guys can have access to it on the archive. Okay.
Was there a time change for like next time that I didn't know about, or it was just like
just
started
today?
late?
Just today is 1 p.m. and the rest of the sessions going forward are 12.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Yes, there was an email reminder that was sent out last night, so if you missed that, that's okay. But it's the only time that we're having that change for the next 30 days.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, my love. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go into the practice of accessing this information. We talked about looking at the different layers of the body, okay? And when we look at the different layers of the body, how do we access that information in order to heal? We are fragmented into those different, like I showed you that net of the body. And so we have access to all of those fragments. We can bring it into the present moment, but we have to be a vibrational match to that. And we also have to become aware of those fragments. We become aware of them through meditation, letting go of all of the programming layers so that we can come into the true core self. So I'm going to do a practice with you today where I want you guys to go into, yesterday we talked about stillness and becoming aware of this muscle memory and the information that's there. Remember, the body is holographic all around. So the information you have in your muscles, the information that you have in your chakras, all of that is a holographic projection that is within your space and is making you a vibrational frequency and a match to the things that are around you. So when you start to clean those layers, you begin to also open access to the higher levels of your body. And so I'm going to be working with you today. We're going to clear out those layers and we're going to begin to access the higher layers of the body. We're going to connect with these Akashic records that are available to us. We can reach them at any time during meditation through the memory of the body. So let's get started. I want you guys to get really nice and comfortable. If you guys don't have any more questions, we're going to go right into it. All right, my loves. We're going to start by inhaling deeply and exhaling.